Well, I'm thankful to be here at this important conference. In this lecture, we will stride into esoteric and early Christianity as we explore the artwork of painting's greatest genius, Leonardo da Vinci. We certainly do not have sufficient time to explore Leonardo's biography in full, but I'll highlight some of the important moments of his life. Born on the 15th of April, 1452, some 573 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci was the illegitimate son of a notary. Illegitimate, but beloved by his father, who provided for his early education. At age 8, he was enrolled in an art school in Florence. At 12, he had been promoted to the best artistic workshop, Andrea del Verrocchio's, where many other famous Renaissance artists got their training, including Botticelli, Ghirlandaio, Perugino, Lorenzo di Credi, and many others. But during his lifetime, Leonardo often was looked down upon for not having a formal education that included Latin. Yet he was still considered more than a genius. His students had a profound love for him that could be said to be an example of love one another as I have loved you. He died on the 2nd of May, 1519, in France, where he had been on the invitation of the King of France. Historian Giorgio Vasari wrote in 1568 that Leonardo had a sense of perfect design coupled with divine grace. This genius was well along with this painting in 1481 when he suddenly abandons this. This adoration of the Magi was to have been his coming out masterpiece. It would have established Leonardo as the Florentine master, but he just walked away. Instead, he begins Virgin of the Rocks. Art historians have marveled at why. And when he left Florence for Milan early in 1482, he took other unfinished paintings with him, but not this. Why? One explanation we need to consider is initiation into spiritual knowledge. Knowing how initiation changes an individual, might we entertain the idea that Leonardo, here in his 30th year, received an initiation that so profoundly changed him that he knew he could no longer paint according to church dogma, but only according to truth? Once Leonardo arrived in Milan, he quickly won a commission from the Confraternity of the Immaculate Conception to paint something similar to this on the right. Here you see the copy that stood in his studio for almost 25 years, while eventually a legal battle caused Leonardo to alter this copy to satisfy the confraternity. Leonardo's partner had long since decided they were done with it, for he had already varnished the surface. You can see that there are some important differences. The light for the Louvre's seems to be sunlight, while for the copy it seems to be moonlight. Most importantly, Leonardo obeyed the legal requirements and added halos and a staff to identify the boy on our left as John the Baptist. Look at the original. If that's Mary in the middle, then which child belongs to her? That other woman is an archangel. We don't have time to study all the differences, but I encourage you to do so in the coming days. Why didn't Leonardo want to paint the staff of John the Baptist? It is very interesting to read how various prophets expected two messiahs, one kingly and one priestly, perhaps out of the streams of Cain and Abel. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1947. They were written in Hebrew and Aramaic by Essene initiates, from about 150 BC until about 70 AD, when the Roman army dispersed all the Jews. A Jewish research team, Livius.org, wrote, the Qumranites expected the coming of not one, but two messiahs, one of a priestly lineage, Aaron, and one kingly, Israel. One scroll, the Damascus document, states the Messiah, which is the son of Joseph, will be made one with the son of David, the Messiah, son of David, but he will be killed. So we find reference to two messiahs in three books of the Old Testament that you see listed here. Several expectations of two anointed ones are also found in other holy texts. For example, the book of Zohar from Kabbalistic roots states, another Messiah, the son of Joseph, will unite himself with the Messiah, the son of David. But the son of Joseph will not remain in life. He will be killed and will become alive again when the little hill receives life upon the great hill. I will show later that the little hill is the head of Jesus of Nazareth, while the great hill is Golgotha. The testaments of the 12 patriarchs was available for Leonardo to read. It says, for the Lord will raise up from Levi someone as a high priest, and from Judah someone as king. He will save all the Gentiles and the tribe of Israel. That's from the Testament of Simeon. In summary, the prophets expected two births or two messiahs and a later merging. In Rudolf Steiner's Christology, he claims that the two nativity stories of Matthew and Luke describe different families and different births. This chart outlines those striking differences. In Matthew, the family was well off, lives in Bethlehem, and its Jesus had at least 6 siblings. In Luke, the family is poor, from Nazareth, and its Jesus was a single child. The Matthew family flees to Egypt, while the Luke family safely returns to Nazareth after paying their taxes. We've long seen these pictures of the baptism. Early Christianity spoke of a birth of Christ at the baptism. Researchers such as Bart Ehrman have shown that the phrase, this day I have begotten thee, was in the earliest manuscripts of Luke and likely in other Gospels as well, and then changed around the 3rd century. You see, the focus of early Christianity was on Easter, not the Nativity. Christmas was not celebrated until 354 AD and was not in most of Europe until the 9th century. Let's jump ahead now to the 15th century in the life of Leonardo. Through reading the Akashic record, Rudolf Steiner said of him that he was, in an earlier existence, a great initiate who had raised himself to high knowledge of the spiritual world. But in his time, due to the state of physical bodies, such experiences could not fully come to consciousness. A 15th century body could not bring to expression the inner thought, inner feeling, and inner power of execution which Leonardo had taken up into himself in earlier lives. Although Leonardo was always driven to seek for the Spirit, he was repeatedly frustrated. Yet this impulse to seek for the Spirit still worked in a glorious and grand way in him. We see this in his book on painting, where he described, the Italian word is disegno, as the sacred design to be done before one begins painting. Leonardo, from my research, was initiated as a member of the Accademia Platonica before he left for Milan. While a profound experience, Nonetheless, this was limited, as we heard, by the times. The original hierophant of the Academia Platonica was Giorgio Gemistus Plethon, who I call the catalyst for the Renaissance. Emperor John, the Byzantine Emperor John, had placed Platon, because he was the wisest man on earth, among the set of envoys that he sent in 1438 to the Council of Florence to heal the great rift between East and Western Christianity. Because he was a pagan, he was not admitted to the council. Instead, he offered lectures on the ancient Greek, Chaldean, Egyptian, and Persian philosophers and mystics. Cosimo de' Medici attended these lectures. Out of his excitement and inspiration, he founded the Accademia Platonica and placed Marsilio Ficino as its head. Platon brought a trunk full of books on esotericism, hermeticism, and magic, and allowed the Medici team to translate them from Greek to Latin. This job was given primarily to Ficino. In 1440, Platon returned to Greece to found a mystery center near Sparta. Clearly, he was a hierophant, meaning that he could train one to become an initiate. I conjecture that Ficino was so trained, and later he initiated Leonardo in his 30th year, recognizing something important and significant about Leonardo. Now, over the rest of this talk, I'll show you why I think this. We know that at age 28, Leonardo was already part of the Medici household. He would have known Ficino and members of the Accademia Platonica, but its membership was a secret. He also became a member of the Garden of San Marcos, where he had access to its library, including esoteric content, as well as garden walks with the leading philosophers of his time. There is an odd journal entry in his notebook that says, "The Medici made me and the Medici destroyed me." Could he be referring to the role the Medici had in bringing him to a form of initiation when the old me is destroyed and a new me is born again? Florence at this time was home to many secret societies. Leonardo knew to keep his life or his private life secret. He acted much like and garnered the respect given to an initiate. When Leonardo moved to Milan, he set up his own academy based on the Platonica Academy in Florence. We do not have time to go into the strong and dangerous resistance Leonardo experienced. Not only was there an active inquisition, but also the fundamental Dominican friar Savonarola. Leonardo had to be very careful and secretive if he held views that differed even slightly from that of the church. Besides Plethon's books, the Pistis Sophia was available to Leonardo. It refers to not only two messiahs, but also to two families. The passage from chapter 59 to 62 is most significant. Two boys, both named Jesus, are described in this passage. They seem to be about 12 years old. From chapter 61, we read, and I quote, "He embraced thee, he kissed thee, and thou didst kiss him, and then you two became one," end quote. These are kissing babies, a portrayal of the, could they be from the scene of Pistis Sophia you just heard. Leonardo and his students did extensive study of kissing babes. Why? In that scene where two boys, both named Jesus, kiss each other and then become one, merged, might it be the kissing scene from Pistis Sophia? Well, these boys are certainly not 12 years old. Leonardo used innocent babies, perhaps, for the kissing scene so as not to stir up anti-homosexual sentiment that he had had to endure earlier in his life when police arrested him and a few other young men for nudity in public? Was the intent to depict non-sexual pre-puberty intimacy? This painting is by Jus van Cleve, who is known as the Leonardo of the North. Jus and his students painted dozens of these kissing babies, which he learned from Leonardo. Why would any artist of this time paint the scene over and over again? They weren't commissioned. More importantly, who is being depicted in them? Here are two more examples by Jus van Cleve. Notice how the bird on the rocks has moved, but otherwise these seem nearly identical. Here we see the Thulan Madonna by Marco d'Aggiano, who was a student of Leonardo. Between her hands are these kissing babies. Note her hand gestures. Her left hand is on the Book of Wisdom. What would you say her right hand is doing? Take a moment to compare Marco d'Aggiano's Thulan Madonna to Leonardo's Virgin of the Rocks that hung in the studio where Leonardo's students worked. You'll notice the obvious similar head tilt. Pay attention to the hand gestures of the Madonna. In the Thulan, her left hand draws from the Book of Wisdom. In the Virgin of the Rock, her right hand draws from the kneeling boy that she touches. Are we to assume these are the same two boys? Perhaps, or perhaps they've switched places. If so, why might that be? Here we see the Holy Family by Bernardino Luini next to the Thulan Madonna. In each, we have these kissing babies between the hands of the woman. Why? The female's hand gestures are exactly the same as in Virgin of the Rocks. In Holy Family, her hands are incongruous for this scene. By doing this, Luini is telling the viewer that as Leonardo's student, he knew of the secrets of his paintings. The Madonna's hands in Luini's painting serve no function except to point us to the central figure of Virgin of the Rocks. Again, the tilt of her head is the same. So why did Luini mix the scenes from Virgin of the Rocks and the Holy Infants Embracing? Now we come to this one by Bernardino de Conti. Compare it to the Thulan Madonna. They are remarkably similar except for the backgrounds and some other important details. It was shocking to me that De Conti's background is the same as Virgin of the Rocks. This is not just another kissing babies. Obviously, De Conti was quite aware of the secrets of these paintings and their mystery. What is symbolically meant by that book? To whom do you think its wisdom is being granted? Look closely at their halos. What do these halos tell us? They show which boy is going to be crucified, the one with the 3 crosses on his head. Why 3 crosses? Because 3 were crucified on Golgotha, the place of Adam's skull. Now compare De Conti's painting to the original Virgin of the Rocks. We see that the Madonna's hands are reversed. Thus, so are the children. De Conti is showing us that the 2 children of Virgin of the Rocks are the same 2 children of Holy Infants Embracing, but on different sides. And De Conti is telling us that the central figure is bestowing wisdom to the child on the left from the Book of Wisdom. Thus, in Leonardo's painting, the bestowal is from the kneeling boy through the central figure to the sitting boy. By using the same background, De Conti is definitely trying to inform us that his painting reveals something important about his masters original Virgin of the Rocks. Here in this painting by Bernardino da Conti, we have the familiar two children from Virgin of the Rocks. Now, who would you expect to be in their midst? Madonna, right? No, this painting is called The Three Children. Given that John the Baptist is the one in the middle, who then are the other two? Note the two boys are in exactly the same poses as in Virgin of the Rocks. The one on our left has royal robes. Unlike the Virgin of the Rocks, the boy on the right has that halo of three crosses. Otherwise, the hands of both boys are identical to those of the Virgin of the Rocks. The hands of John the Baptist are similar to those of the Madonna. Why is John here between them? We see these paintings speaking to each other. Note in the central figures, both have the same head tilt. Their hands, although different, have similar gestures. We've now concluded that the kneeling boy is not John the Baptist. But then, who is the boy on the left? The one who has the three crosses for a halo, that must be Jesus. But who is the boy with the royal robe? Even Raphael must have been in on this secret. Here is his Madonna Terra Nuova from when he was 22 years old. But how could he have been in on this secret since Leonardo had left Florence before Raphael was even born? Well, due to war, Leonardo was back in Florence from 1501 to 1506, and this painting was completed in 1505. The boy on the left is John the Baptist. The naked boy in Madonna's lap is Jesus. But here again, we have a third boy with a halo and royal robes on the right. Why couldn't these artists just come out and tell us what they have painted? Oh, yeah, the Inquisition. At this point, I'll propose that the intended depiction of Leonardo's Virgin of the Rocks was based upon pre-Christian and early Christian theologies and prophecies that expected two messiahs. While confirmation of such prophecies came with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, Leonardo knew this from his initiation as well as ancient texts that he had had access to while in Florence. If this theory of two Jesus children is to be seriously considered, then why is there just one Jesus later in life? The Gnostic text, the Pistis Sophia, spoke of a merger of two boys, and several pre-Christian prophecies claimed that there would be two messiahs, one kingly and one priestly, and that they shall become one in thine hand. Again, through his students, Leonardo addresses how the two became one. This is Jesus Among the Doctors by Leonardo's student Bernardino Luini. The hand gesture over the heart of Jesus presents the theme of the two becoming one. This Jesus Among the Doctors is by Bernardino de Beto, known as Pinturicchio. It is another example showing that Leonardo used his students to safely tell this story. They took up this cause, for it would have been far too dangerous for Leonardo alone to spell out this story in his art. The books of the learned doctors have been thrown on the ground, symbolic that their knowledge fades in the face of this 12-year-old boy. Note his halo with a red cross inscribed, indicating his divine destiny. First, notice the hand gesture. It too says the two will become one. Next, we notice the feet. On our right, the child with the halo is standing on the earth barefoot. On the left, both children's feet are lifted off the earth, one by socks, the other by shoes. Of these two children, one is well dressed like the son of a king, while the other poorly dressed like the son of a shepherd. These two are departing. They represent the two Jesus children as they once were, but will no longer be. We see that These two boys are framed by 5 individuals. Their clothing colors go from left to right: black, blue, gold, green, and magenta, and in the fifth, a royal purple. Each of the four carry an object in their hand. These have not been tossed to the earth. The four facing the two children represent the physical black, Soma blue, Psyche gold, and Numa the rose green. This fifth is the Hierophant who performed the spiritual merging of these two within the Holy of the Holies. The result was the boy with a halo. Leonardo abandoned what was to have been his masterpiece, the Adoration of the Magi, to paint the truth. He was bound to the truth through his initiation within the Platonic Academy in 1481. He therefore immediately began to paint the Virgin of the Rocks instead of this adoration. We found that Leonardo, with the help of his students, was able to show how Christ came for all of humanity. Embedded in the stories of Matthew and Luke were two different streams of humanity that reached their resolution by merging. Then Christ could enter such a human body for all of humanity. This story, if told solely by Leonardo, may have led to a condemnation and death by the Inquisition. By spreading the story out over so many paintings and painters, a mystery was revealed in plain sight that was yet invisible to the Inquisition. Sheer genius on the part of Leonardo. I left one character unidentified. Leonardo was a lover of wisdom, of divine wisdom, of the Virgin Sophia. He taught his students through observation to seek her, whom we must find if the Christ power that is ours since the mystery of Golgotha is to become alive within us. So now you know. And this brings us to the end.